Diddy faces same charge that brought down mob bosses. What is racketeering? Passed in 1970, the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, targeting organized crime, most importantly mob bosses. Prosecutors say Diddy was the general of his own criminal organization. Jurors on July 1st say they have arrived at verdicts regarding sex charges and prostitution in the Sean Diddy Combs case. But a charge they remain deadlocked on is racketeering, usually used against violent mob organizations and crime lords such as John Gotti. Among the questions they will need to answer for a racketeering conviction: was Combs the head of a criminal organization? Did the people in the organization commit two types of so-called predicate acts, such as sex trafficking and obstruction of justice? And did it happen more than once? The jury will go back to the deliberation room on Wednesday after nearly 2 months of testimony in a New York courtroom. Jurors said they have reached a verdict on the 2 counts each of sex trafficking and transportation to engage in prostitution that Combs faces. But they have not been able to reach a decision on racketeering conspiracy. None of the decisions the jury has reached thus far are final, and jurors can change their minds until verdicts are formally announced. Convicting someone on a racketeering charge is fairly simple and allows the government to seize a great deal of assets, according to experts interviewed by USA Today. Prosecutors love this statute, said B. Michael Mears, an associate professor at Atlanta's John Marshall Law School and the former head of Georgia's Public Defender's Office. They do overuse it because it's so easy. It's a good vehicle for the government to go in and bring down the heads of organizations. As Combs awaits the jury's decision, here's a look at what racketeering is, what the attorneys in Combs' case say about it, and how much time the rap mogul would face if he's convicted. Racketeering explained. Passed in 1970, the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, RICO, took direct aim at organized crime. Instead of just bringing down low-level foot soldiers of a mafia organization, the new legislation allowed law enforcement to target the generals, Mears said. You only have to show that someone associated with the head of the criminal organization commits the crime, he said. The criminal liability goes from the lowest rung to the head. The law allowed the government to take down members of the mob, like the Genovese family and John Gotti, head of the Gambino crime family. In the decades since, prosecutors have used the broad legislation against various criminal enterprises, including gangs like the Hells Angels and MS-13. Corrupt officials including mayors, governors, judges, and sheriffs, white supremacists, hackers, and recording artists including R. Kelly. A criminal enterprise can be a loose association of people. It does not have to have a formal structure, and it can engage in both legal and illegal activities. It's a very broad thing, said John Floyd, a prominent Atlanta prosecutor who tries RICO cases and says that much of the public only thinks of mobsters when it comes to racketeering. Most folks look at this and try to latch onto something that's familiar, and that becomes The Godfather. That becomes Tony Soprano. It covers those guys, but it's not remotely limited to them, Floyd continued. It goes beyond guys who have a bottle of Chianti on a check tablecloth. Diddy's prosecutors, defense attorney on racketeering charge, using RICO law, prosecutors say that Combs used employees, resources, and influence of the multifaceted business empire that he led and controlled, creating a criminal enterprise to commit crimes including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, bribery, and obstruction of justice, according to the indictment. The indictment says that Combs used his many businesses, including Bad Boy Records, as a criminal organization to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct, which included so-called freak-offs, sometimes days-long sex performances that federal prosecutors say were captured on video. Combs has pleaded not guilty to racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. He's the general, not a foot soldier, prosecutor Maureen Comey told jurors, saying that Combs could not have engaged in the conduct he did without a great deal of help. Another prosecutor, Christy Slavic, told jurors there is no doubt that Combs was the head of a criminal enterprise. Remember, it's his kingdom, she said. Everyone was there to serve him. Combs' team has slammed prosecutors for overcharging the rap mogul, saying all the sex involved in the case was consensual. The evidence is going to show you a very flawed individual, but it will not show you a racketeer, a sex trafficker, or somebody transporting for prostitution, Combs' attorney, Tenny Gallegos, told jurors during opening statements in May. In his closing argument last week, defense attorney Mark Agnifilo said of the racketeering charge, "Are you kidding me? What happens if Diddy is convicted? Combs stands to lose everything if he's convicted." A racketeering conviction alone carries a minimum prison sentence of 20 years and maximum of life behind bars. If convicted of racketeering, the government would also be able to seize all of Combs' assets, leaving him behind bars and powerless, Mears said. RICO provides prosecutors with the opportunity to cut off the head of the snake, he said. They're more concerned about the mob boss than the mobsters themselves.